is your latest African news. Africa-wide. African leaders welcome Russia-Ukraine wheat deal. African leaders have welcomed a Ukraine-Russia deal that is set to unblock wheat and maize exports from Ukrainian ports. The African Union (AU) said the agreement was a welcome development for the continent on July 22nd, adding that grain shipments were urgently needed to avert famine. Macky Sall, chairman of the 55-member state continental body, said the deal was a response to Russia's visit in June, where AU officials stressed to Putin the urgency of returning cereals from Ukraine and Russia to world markets. Brokered by the UN and Turkey, the deal is the first major agreement involving Moscow and Kyiv since the conflict began in February. It aims to reduce grain prices and restore exports to countries currently gripped by food shortages. The agreement should make it possible to export between 20 to 25 million tons of grain stuck in Ukraine if successful. Chad opposition groups to take part in peace talks. Several Chadian political and rebel groups have decided to take part in peace talks in Qatar, reversing their previous position. Earlier this month, they pulled out after accusing Chad's military government of harassment and threats. Chad's interim president Mohamed Deby recently announced that a national dialogue would take place in August as the first step towards elections. The death of his father last year, the country's longtime leader Idris Deby, threw Chad into political turmoil. Mohamed Deby dismissed the government, dissolved parliament, and repealed the constitution, vowing to hold free and transparent elections in 18 months, a deadline that he said could be postponed once if certain conditions were not fulfilled. The rebel groups who withdrew on July 16th did so less than 24 hours after the younger Deby's administration announced that a national peace dialogue ahead of elections would start on August 20th. The rebels said that the new date had been set without any consultation, describing it as an attempt to exclude many of the armed groups and their political allies from the dialogue. Mali orders United Nations spokesperson to leave the country. On July 20, 2022, Malian authorities ordered Olivier Salgado, the spokesman of the United Nations peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA, to leave the country. The move follows the military government's suspension of the rotation of the United Nations military and police forces. The mandate of the UN mission in the country was renewed in June. The government announced that for national security reasons, all rotations of the military contingent and police contingent of MINUSMA were suspended. Earlier on June 10, 2022, Mali arrested 49 soldiers from Ivory Coast. MINUSMA said it believed that the troops were part of a unit that provided routine logistical support to the DR Congo military contingent. But the Mali government said the soldiers provided varying reasons for their presence in the country, including that they were carrying out a confidential mission and that they were protecting Germany's MINUSMA contingent. Côte d'Ivoire government has contested Mali's claims. Africa-wide, WAFCON 2022. South Africa beat Morocco to finally land their first title. The South African national team has been crowned Women's Africa Cup of Nations champions for the first time in its history, following a hard-fought 2-1 victory over host Morocco at Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium on Saturday 23rd July. Playing in front of a crowd of over 45,000 supporters in Rabat, the South Africans upset their hosts thanks to a brace from South African-based striker Hilda Magaya. Having previously reached the finals of the competition on 4 occasions, the South Africans finally got their hands on the trophy at the 5th attempt. DR Congo. DR Congo warns of militarizing wildlife parks in Rwanda's part. A Congolese minister has warned he could propose militarizing wildlife parks in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo to protect them from rebels he says are supported by Rwanda. Tourism Minister Modero Nsimba accused Rwanda, which last week hosted an international conference on protected wildlife areas in Africa, of hypocrisy. The oldest national park in Africa, Virunga, is home to spectacular species of wildlife, including mountain gorillas. The 97-year-old haven extends across nearly 8,000 square kilometers, 3,000 square miles, including the border areas with Rwanda and Uganda. But it is also struggling with attacks by armed groups. The M23 sighted by Nsimba leapt to prominence when it briefly captured the eastern Congolese city of Goma in 2012 before it was driven out in a joint UN-Congolese offensive. After lying mostly dormant for years, the M23 resumed fighting last November after accusing the Congolese government of failing to honor an agreement to incorporate its fighters into the army. The Democratic Republic of Congo has repeatedly accused Rwanda of backing the M23, a charge its smaller neighbor has always denied. South Sudan. Concerns raised as South Sudan delays creation of Peace Accountability Court. South Sudan's peace monitoring body has expressed concerns over delays in creating a hybrid court, slowing the country's bid to look into past atrocities. The court is part of institutions which were to be set up under Chapter 5 of the Revitalized Agreement of the Cessation of Conflict in South Sudan, RJMEC, the 2018 peace deal that halted war. On Friday, the Revitalized Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, RJMEC, says the court, to be composed of local and foreign judges, is key in checking past accountability. According to the peace accord, South Sudan with the African Union is to set up a hybrid court for South Sudan to investigate and prosecute individuals suspected of committing crimes since the conflict began in December 2013. The country was mooted as part of efforts to reconcile a country that had been divided along ethnic lines by nearly 7 years of civil war. But its creation has been a controversial subject, with authorities in Juba led by President Salva Kiir arguing it could open up old wounds. Diaspora. U.S. Supreme Court to issue separate rulings on affirmative action in college admissions. The U.S. Supreme Court took a procedural step on July 22nd that will allow the court's first black woman to participate in a high-stakes challenge to affirmative action in college admissions. The court agreed in January to take up the issue by granting 2 cases, one involving Harvard, a private university, and the other from the University of North Carolina, a public institution. The 2 cases were consolidated, meaning they were to be argued and decided together. During her confirmation hearing, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said she would not take part in the consideration of the affirmative action issue because she was on a board that advised Harvard on policy matters. Participating in the case would present a potential conflict of interest, she said. But on a brief order on July 22nd, the court said the 2 cases are no longer consolidated. Because they are now separate, she can participate in the case from the University of North Carolina. The court said Justice Jackson took no part in the consideration of the July 22nd order. The court's January decision to take up the cases presented the most serious threats in decades to the use of affirmative action by the nation's public and private colleges and universities.
Africa-wide. Ghana, Kenya, Malawi to gain further access to malaria vaccine. The World Health Organization and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, have invited developing countries like Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi to apply for funding to access the RTSS malaria vaccine. International support worth $160 million from 2022 to 2025 will be made available to the countries which piloted the jab in 2019. Other countries which are affected by malaria can apply for the funding from September. The World Health Organization recommended the widespread use of the RTSS vaccine in October 2021, which had led to more countries expressing an interest in it. But the jab only provides 30% protection. To date, about 1.3 million children have received at least one of the required 4 doses of the vaccine since it was piloted in 2019. However, the supply remains limited in the continent. Africa needs at least 80 to 100 million doses annually, according to the World Health Organization. The manufacturer GSK says it can only produce about 15 million doses every year until 2028. South Africa. South Africa has its first woman deputy chief justice. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed Mandisa Maya as the country's first permanent female Deputy Chief Justice after skipping her for the top job at the Constitutional Court. Maya's appointment will take effect on September 1st, the presidency said in a statement. She was also the first female president of South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeal. Ramaphosa nominated Maya as Deputy Chief Justice in March after he named Raymond Zondo to head the Johannesburg-based top court. That ignored a recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission, whose members include lawyers, judges, and representatives of political parties to appoint Maya. Maya's appointment means 4 of the highest court's 10 justices are women. Besson Kambinde, who is now retired, was acting Deputy Chief Justice from May 2016 until June 2017. Zimbabwe. To stem inflation, Zimbabwe debuts gold coin as legal tender. Zimbabwe has launched gold coins to be sold to the public in a bid to tame runaway inflation that has further eroded the country's unstable currency. The unprecedented move was announced on July 25th by the country's central bank, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, to boost confidence in the local currency. Trust in Zimbabwe's currency is low after people saw their savings wiped out by hyperinflation in 2008, which reached 5 billion%, according to the IMF. With strong memories of the disastrous period and many retailers refusing Zimbabwe's currency, Zimbabweans prefer to scramble on the black market for scarce US dollars to keep at home as savings or for daily transactions. The central bank dispersed 2,000 coins to commercial banks on July 25th. The first batch of the coins was minted outside the country but eventually will be produced locally, according to the governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, John Mangudia. Nigeria. Fury as Michael Johnson questions Nigeria's world record. Many people, especially Nigerians, are definitely unhappy with American Olympic legend Michael Johnson after he tweeted about the timing of the 100-meter hurdles event of the World Athletics Championship. In a two-tweet thread, the 54-year-old, who won 4 Olympic gold and 8 World Championship golds, doubted the accuracy of the clock. Interestingly, Nigerian athlete Tobi Amusan set records in the same event that Johnson questioned. She first set an African record in Heat 1 of the 100-meter hurdles, then broke the world record in the semi-finals before breaking her own world record in a time of 12.12 seconds in the final. Egypt. Egyptian court calls for femicide execution to be broadcast live. An Egyptian court on July 24th called for a legal amendment to allow the live broadcast of the execution of the killer of a female student as a deterrent to frequent homicides. In a highly publicized 2-day trial, Mohammed Adel was found guilty last month of the premeditated murder of a fellow university student, Nayer Ashraf, who had rejected his advances after he confessed to the crime in court. The criminal court, which sentenced Adel in Mansoura, 130 kilometers north of Cairo, called on the legislature to amend the law governing capital punishment in order to allow the execution to be broadcast live. In a letter to Parliament, the court argued the broadcast, even of only part of the start of proceedings, could achieve the goal of deterrence, which was not achieved by broadcasting the sentencing itself. The Egyptians shared their horror online when a video went viral in June, appearing to show Ashraf being stabbed outside her university in Mansoura. The maximum penalty for murder is death in Egypt, which carried out the world's 3rd highest number of executions in 2021, according to Amnesty International. Democratic Republic of Congo. Government to auction oil drilling rights in rainforest region despite protest. The Democratic Republic of Congo says it will start auctioning off rights next week to enable drilling for oil in more than 24 areas, including a rainforest region that green action groups say should be 27 blocks of oil exploration and 3 for gas will be auctioned off from 28th July. Democratic Republic of Congo's Minister for Hydrocarbons Didier Budimbu announced late on July 25th of the 27 oil blocks, 3 are located on the coast of the Congo River Basin and 9 in the huge Central Basin rainforest region in the west of the country. The other 15 are in the east of the country near the Albert and Tanganyika Great Lakes. The 3 gas blocks are located at Lake Kivu, also in the east. Environmental campaigners have protested against plans to drill in the Central Basin. Oil prospection there, which will include the cutting of huge corridors to transport equipment, could have a disastrous impact on rare species and unleash carbon that has laid undisturbed for thousands of years, they say. The auction comes after the government reached a deal in February with Israeli tycoon Dan Gutler, paying him $2 billion for his rights over 2 blocks at Lake Albert. In April, it announced it will go ahead with the auction. Gambia. International Court of Justice rules in favor of Gambia on Myanmar genocide case. The International Court of Justice has the jurisdiction to hear an application by the Gambia against Myanmar. The court announced following Myanmar's application challenging its jurisdiction and the admissibility of the application. The Gambia accuses Myanmar of committing genocide against its minority Rohingya population. Judges at the Hague-based UN court announced their decision on Friday on the case filed by the Gambia in November 2019 with the backing of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. In a 35-page application, the West African nation accused Myanmar of persecuting the Rohingyas under the Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The Myanmar government is alleged to have connived with extremist Buddhist monks to embark on ethnic cleansing and genocide against the Rohingya, who predominantly live in the Rakhine state. The Gambia, a predominantly Muslim country and mainland Africa's smallest nation, was praised by the Islamic world for its stance against Myanmar. Diaspora. Ship spills 30,000 gallons of oil in the Bahamas. Some 30,000 gallons of fuel has spilled from a vessel in the Bahamas, a government official has said. The oil spill took place at the world-famous resort island of Great Exuma, the largest island in the Exuma Island chain, known for its white sand beaches and swimming pigs. The Bahamas acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper said that the spill began as the ship was unloading fuel near Old Navy Base in Georgetown for local Sun Oil, an independent Bahamian company that markets and distributes fuel and lubricants on behalf of Shell. Cooper identified the vessel involved as being the Arabian. The Director of Environmental Planning and Protection stated that the fuel spill in Georgetown Exuma is an extreme situation but easier to contain than most.
Africa-wide. Russia's Lavrov tours Africa to strengthen bilateral ties. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is visiting Africa as part of a push by Moscow to strengthen ties with the continent. On July 22nd, Russia and Ukraine signed a deal with the United Nations and Turkey aimed at relieving a global food crisis caused by blocked Black Sea grain shipments. Many African nations are heavily dependent on imports of wheat and other grains from Russia and Ukraine, but supplies have been badly disrupted by the war in Ukraine, exacerbating the risk of hunger. In June, African Union Chairman Macky Sall told Russian President Vladimir Putin that even though Africa was far from the theater of war, African people are victims of this economic crisis. Over the years, Russia has found openings to restore its influence by offering security assistance with fewer conditions than the West. Lavrov's visit is being seen as a push to rally the support of African nations, many of whom have strong historical ties with Russia. Cameroon. Cameroon parties have called on France to recognize colonial crimes. A collective of Cameroonian political parties have called on President Emmanuel Macron to recognize France's crimes a few hours before his visit to Western African states, including Cameroon. It's Macron's first visit abroad after re-election as he seeks to reboot France's post-colonial relationship with the continent. After Germany's defeat in 1918, the League of Nations, the forerunner of the United Nations, handed over most of the German colony of Cameroon to France and the rest, the western part bordering Nigeria, to Britain. Before the country's independence in 1960, the French authorities bloodily suppressed the Maquis of the UPC, Union of the Peoples of Cameroon, a nationalist party founded in the late 1940s and engaged in armed struggle against the colonizer and his Cameroonian allies, particularly in Bamileke country. Tens of thousands of pro-UPC activists, including independence leader Ruben Nyobe, were massacred first by the French army and then, after independence, by the Cameroonian army of Amadou Ahijo's regime. DR Congo. 5 die in big anti-UN protest in DR Congo. At least 5 people have been killed and about 50 wounded during anti-UN protests in the eastern DR Congo city of Goma, government spokesman Patrick Muyaya has said. On July 26th, hundreds of people blocked roads and chanted hostile slogans before storming the UN peacekeeping mission's headquarters and a logistical base. Protesters smashed windows and looted valuables, while helicopters airlifted UN staff from the premises and security forces fired tear gas in a bid to push them back. The UN mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, known as MONUSCO, is one of the world's biggest peacekeeping operations. But it has regularly come under criticism in the country's troubled east for its perceived inability to stem decades-long bloodshed. More than 120 armed groups roam the volatile region where civilian massacres are common and conflict has displaced millions of people. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe begins relocation of over 2,600 wild animals as drought worsens. Zimbabwe has begun the relocation of more than 2,600 wild animals from the southern parts of the country, where they are at risk due to drought, to the northern parts of the country. According to local newspaper, the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority (ZIMPARKS) issued permits for the transfer of 2,640 animals from the Save Valley Conservancy to 3 other national parks, Tsapi, Chizarira, and Motusadona. The animals to be relocated include 400 elephants, 2,000 impalas, 70 giraffes, 50 zebras, 50 buffaloes, 50 clans, 10 lions, and 10 wild dogs. The operation is the second largest by the southern African country since the 1950s when Kariba Dam was being constructed. Parts of Zimbabwe have been dogged by drought in recent months, resulting in massive loss of vegetation. Failed rains means the situation may not improve soon enough. Zimbabwe's tourism authorities are, however, keen to avoid a decline in tourism fortunes and are banking on the relocation to sustain the sector's allure. Burkina Faso. French diplomats' comments raise anger in Burkina Faso. A recent remark by the French ambassador in Burkina Faso, Luc Hollade, has caused anger and controversy to such an extent that certain civil society organizations and political players are demanding his departure. Reporting to senators in France on July 5, 2022, Hollade said the absence of results is causing strong frustrations in the country and the conflict is in reality a civil war. He added that a part of the population has rebelled against the state and seeks to overthrow it. A few days later, during the commemoration of the French National Day in capital Ouagadougou, the diplomat again attacked certain internet users whom he described as idiots who accuse his country without proof of aiding terrorism in the Sahel. According to Paul Umaru Koalanga, a specialist in international relations, the utterance of the French ambassador is clumsy and is a flagrant violation of basic principles in diplomatic relations. Zimbabwe. Trial of former Mining Federation president on gold smuggling and bribery charges begins. The trial of Zimbabwe Mining Federation ZMF President Henrietta Rushwaya for allegedly bribing a Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe CAAZ official in a bid to smuggle 6 kilograms of gold to Dubai has started. Rushwaya denied ever offering a $5,000 bribe to an official at Robert Mugabe International Airport as alleged. She told Harare magistrate that she would not have done that because she had nothing to hide. The state started by calling witness Owen Sibanda, who said when they found out that there was gold in Rushwaya's bag, they asked for papers allowing her to travel with the precious mineral, and she indicated that someone was bringing the papers. Sibanda told the court that he took the bribe offer as a joke and what made him call the police was the issue of gold smuggling. Rushwaya's lawyer later made an application for discharge, citing lack of evidence. However, the state opposed the application, insisting it has a strong case against Rushwaya and that she should defend her case. The case has been postponed to August 1st, 2022 for ruling of the application for discharge made by the defense.
Africa-wide, UN AIDS chief calls out racism after people in the South denied visas to attend conference. Winnie Byanyima took it to Twitter on July 26 to slam the treatment she received when boarding a plane in Geneva in the western part of the Swiss Confederation. The executive director of the UN AIDS agency was heading to Canada, where the pre-conferences of the 24th International AIDS Conference are scheduled on Wednesday 27th to Thursday 28th. The former executive director of Oxfam International denounced an unjust and racist situation for hundreds from the South who will miss the conference over visa issues. The incident comes after Afro-pop star Yemi Alade was barred from performing in Canada after her visa applications were rejected. She was expected to sing on the closing event of the Nuit d'Afrique festival taking place in Montreal on July 24th. Angola. 170 carats pink diamond discovered in Angola, largest in 300 years. A big pink diamond of 170 carats has been discovered in Angola and is claimed to be the largest such gemstone found in 300 years. Called the Lulo Rose, the diamond was found at the Lulo Alluviere diamond mine. The mine's owner, the Lucapa Diamond Mine Company, announced on its website. The Lulo mine has already produced the two largest diamonds ever found in Angola, including a 404-carat clear diamond. The pink gemstone is the fifth largest diamond found at the mine, where 27 diamonds of 100 carats or more have been found. According to Lucapa, which is based in Australia, the pink diamond will be sold by international tender by the Angolan state diamond marketing company SUDAN. Angola's mines make it one of the world's top 10 producers of diamonds. Cameroon. Macron says France to open archives on Cameroon colonial era. President Emmanuel Macron on July 26 said the archives on French colonial rule in Cameroon would be open in full and asked historians to shed light on the period. Speaking of the Cameroonian capital Yaoundé, French leader Macron said he wanted historians from both countries to work together on investigating the past and establish responsibilities. French colonial authorities brutally repressed armed Cameroonian nationalists before the country's independence in 1960. Tens of thousands of supporters of the Union of the Peoples of Cameroon UPC party, including independence leader Ruben Umnyobe, were killed by the French army. The Cameroonian army, under the country's first post-independence leader, Amadou Ahidjo, also slayed UPC fighters. Former President François Hollande in 2015 conceded that France's colonial past in Cameroon brought tragic moments and said he was open to opening the archives. Burkina Faso. Compaoré apologizes to the family of slain Sankara. Burkina Faso's former president Blaise Compaoré, sentenced in absentia to life in jail for the 1987 assassination of revolutionary icon Thomas Sankara, has apologized to the ex-leader's family. Compaoré seized power in the West African nation in a 1987 coup in which Sankara was gunned down by a hit squad. The violent death of his former comrade-in-arms was a taboo subject throughout his 27 years in power. A Burkina court handed him a life term in absentia in April for his role in the assassination. He returned to Burkina Faso for several days this month without facing arrest after the country's military leader, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, invited him in the name of national reconciliation. The visit sparked an outcry among civil society groups and political parties who said uniting the nation should not come at the expense of impunity. Botswana. Botswana hits historic UN goal against HIV. Report. Botswana has become the second nation in the world after Eswatini to reach a landmark UN goal towards eradicating AIDS, researchers said on July 27th in what health experts hailed as stellar results. The country has met the so-called 95-95-95 target on HIV diagnosis, treatment, and viral suppression several years early, according to a study published ahead of a global conference on the disease. About 1 in 5 people in Botswana live with the virus. UNAIDS wanted 95% of HIV-positive people to know their status, 95% of those diagnosed on medication, and 95% of those under treatment to show signs that the virus is being suppressed in their blood by 2025. But the study led by Botswana's health ministry found the country had already met or surpassed all three thresholds with a 95, 98, 98 score. The global average in 2020 was 84, 87, 90, UNAIDS says. Diaspora. A new dictionary will document the lexicon of African American English. Black Americans have long contributed to the ways in which the English language is used, and now a new research project aims to compile the first Oxford Dictionary of African American English. The research project is a collaboration between Harvard University's Hutchins Center for African and African American Research and Oxford University Press, with Lanehart among the advising editors. Although there have been projects like this in the past, Lanehart said none had attempted to focus on African American language varieties at this magnitude. The project is one of the most well-funded efforts of its kind. Researchers will pull from documents including flyers, books, and newspapers. They will also draw from music, oral histories, and most notably for Lanehart, social media.
Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has cleared the way for cannabis-based medical products to be sold for the first time as the South African country eyes the industry valued at $1.25 billion. The Medicines Control of Zimbabwe (MCZ) has opened applications for cannabis and hemp producers, manufacturers, importers, exporters, and retail pharmacists. The country became one of the first African countries to legalize cannabis in 2018, but little has been done since to permit commercial production of the drug. The MCZ has now released regulations that will guide investments in the sector as the country, sanctioned by the West, banks on the growing global cannabis market. The country, which is one of the leading producers of tobacco in the world, is considering a shift from the golden leaf to cannabis as the global tobacco ban lobby continues to gather momentum. South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced a major initiative to supplement the country's tottering electricity supply grid by passing ideological and administrative blocks to allow private sector players to produce power independently and with shorter timelines. Recognizing the urgency of addressing ongoing power shortages, mainly caused by decades of non-maintenance, corruption, and internal inefficiencies at Exxon, Africa's largest power utility, Ramaphosa went around existing logjams in an effort to draw in quick-build privately funded renewable energy projects. With an installed capacity of about 51 gigawatts, Exxon provides about 95% of electricity from all sources in South Africa, representing about 45% of Africa's total power production. Conditions have worsened so severely in the meantime that Ramaphosa has stepped in and bypassed anyone in his government who wants the state to be the only power producer. The president promised the stripping away of bureaucratic delays to allow anyone producing energy to feed it into the national grid. Rwanda. Rwanda converts a degraded wetland into urban ecotourism park. The Rwandan government has unveiled a recreational center that was created after restoration of a degraded wetland area in the capital city of Kigali. The Nyandugu Ecotourism Park, the first recreational center opened in Kigali, represents the value of restoring urban ecosystems and will serve as a blueprint for other wetlands in Kigali and across the country. The restoration of the wetland and creation of an ecotourism park saw the planting of 17,000 trees made up of 55 indigenous species, representing the single largest addition to public green space in the city's history. The 121-hectare park features a medicinal garden, a Pope's garden, 5 catchment ponds, 3 recreation ponds, an information center, as well as 10 kilometers of walkways and bike lanes. The rapid growth of Kigali and the associated human activities have put significant pressure on the wetlands. In 2016, Rwanda developed the restoration project to respond to the degradation and downstream flooding, as well as increased pollution due to sewage outflows. Nigeria. Nigerian speaker apologizes for Harvard school photo amid university closures. The House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila has apologized to Nigerian students and parents for posting a picture of himself while in class at Harvard School. Gbajabiamila, who is currently on a leadership course at Harvard, on July 27th posted pictures of himself while in class on his Twitter handle. Moments after posting them, Nigerian students who are currently on strike in the country have condemned his action. The students have been out of school for 5 months owing to the disagreement between ASUU and the federal government. ASUU is demanding for the revitalization of public universities and academic allowances and the deployment of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution for payment of university lecturers, among others. Malawi. Government steps up efforts to safeguard indigenous Malawians' rights to land. Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development Sam Dalitso Kawale has described the Land Information Management System LMIS the ministry has developed as timely in addressing challenges that indigenous Malawians used to face to access land in their own country. The ministry is implementing LMIS with support from the World Bank under the Agricultural Commercialization Project AGCOM to improve the efficiency and effectiveness in the delivery of land administration services to the general public and to ensure transparency and accountability in all land transactions. The project comes hot on the heels of the implementation of the new land-related laws which President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera assented to recently to address challenges affecting land acquisition and ownership in Malawi. Among others, the government plans to digitize land information as a measure to achieve equitable land distribution in Malawi. The new laws also want to expose how some greedy individuals, particularly Malawians of other origins, use their accumulated wealth and money to push indigenous Malawians to the corners through acquisition of multiple plots both in cities and major towns across the country. Diaspora. Federal U.S. lawsuit accuses SeaWorld Palace Place of appalling discrimination. A Maryland father has accused SeaWorld of pervasive and appalling discrimination at its Sesame Street-themed park in Philadelphia in a federal lawsuit on July 27, days after a viral video appeared to show a person dressed as the character Rosita ignoring 2 black girls at the park. The suit, filed in Pennsylvania's Eastern District Court, seeks class action status, alleging that when the plaintiff, Quinton Burns, took his child to the park on June 18th, they tried to participate in a meet and greet with people dressed as Elmo, Annie, Telly Munster, and Abby Kadabi. The suit accuses the characters of intentionally refusing to engage with the child, who is identified in the suit only as KB, and ignoring other black guests while performing for white people. The suit seeks $25 million in damages from SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, which owns Sesame Place Philadelphia. The plaintiffs also want the park to implement mandatory cultural sensitivity training and classes on the history of discrimination. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share and like our video. It's the best way of supporting us. And remember, Africa is watching.